Pope John Paul II, who led the Roman Catholic Church for 27 years, left behind an indelible mark filled with statements that will leave many in shock. His tenure was historically significant, as he was the first non-Italian pope in more than 400 years, a role he performed with great reverence and vision. His influence extended beyond the confines of the Vatican, affecting lives around the world. Considered number one, an exceptional man, John Paul II was seen as the foremost leader of the Christian faith. His role as Pope from 1978 to 2005 positioned him as a figure within Christianity, often regarded as the most spiritual person on earth. What bad things did he say about the end of the world as he was dying? Is the world ending now? During his last days, he spoke of dire predictions and disturbing revelations about the end times, which he quietly communicated to those around him. These prophecies, uttered amid the solemnity of his final moments, suggested dramatic changes that could alter the course of human history. In addition, Pope John Paul II managed, with his meagre strength, to write letters believed to contain predictions of future events, adding layers of intrigue to his already complex legacy. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to stay up to date with our latest content. Your support helps us bring you more information and stories like this one. Historically, his life was marked by several occasions when he narrowly escaped death. In particular, on May 31, 1981, he survived an assassination attempt in St. Peter's Square that nearly cost him his life and spread panic among the Catholic faithful. The assailant, Mehmed Ali Agha, was arrested and sentenced to life imprisonment, although later, at the Pope's urging, he was deported to Turkey in 2007 and surprisingly converted to Catholicism. Years later, the murderer converted to Catholicism. Even after that time, Pope John Paul II's life was always in danger, but he remained steadfast in the faith, fulfilling the purpose of his vocation and teaching the Roman Catholic people the way of God. Emerging as an advocate of true Christian values, Pope John Paul II's early life in Ładowice, Poland, shaped his deep insight into the spiritual path of humanity. Born on May 18, 1920, he suffered a profound loss early on, with the death of his mother when he was only 9 years old, followed by that of his brother 3 years later. His youth was marked by an enthusiasm for physical activities such as skiing and swimming, along with a growing passion for studies. In 1938, he took an important step by enrolling at the University of Krakow, where he decided to devote himself to studying theatre and poetry. However, his studies were abruptly interrupted when the Nazis invaded Poland, resulting in the closure of the university. Amid the turmoil of the 1939 war, his spiritual inclinations intensified, leading him towards the priesthood. He entered a seminary founded by the Archbishop of Krakow, where he found solace and guidance in those tumultuous times. In 1946, he completed his religious formation and was ordained a priest, but his quest for knowledge was far from over. John Paul II then travelled to Rome, where he earned a doctorate in theological studies. Returning to Poland in 1948, he began his pastoral work in several parishes in Krakow. His distinctive qualities soon led him to be elevated as Bishop of Ombie, and in 1958 he ascended as Archbishop of Krakow. His intellectual and spiritual contributions during this period were significant, especially at the Second Vatican Council, which began in 1962 to re-evaluate the doctrines of the Church. His role at Vatican II was decisive in redefining the Church's stance and mission in the modern world. Recognized for his leadership and vision, he was named a cardinal in 1967 by Pope Paul VI. His papacy was characterized by a broad global outreach, visiting more than 100 countries to spread the teachings of Jesus Christ on faith and peace. Despite facing numerous threats, he stood firm, embodying peace and faith as fundamental principles, ensuring that they resonated deeply with Catholics around the world. In addition, he was a strong advocate for human rights, often highlighting global suffering and working tirelessly to alleviate poverty and distress, coordinating aid to affected regions. By his actions and teachings, Pope John Paul II not only strengthened the spiritual foundation of the Church, but also championed a message of compassion and resilience that transcended religious boundaries. Throughout the 1980s, Pope John Paul II persisted in his global outreach, actively participating in international gatherings. His unwavering commitment underscored his dedication to the Church and to believers around the world. At the end of the decade, his health progressively worsened, indicating that challenges awaited him. A turning point came in 1992 with the removal of a benign intestinal tumor. Although the operation was a success, it presaged a series of medical crises. In the following years, he suffered falls in 1993 and 1994, resulting in a lumbar fracture and femur fracture, respectively. These seemingly minor incidents highlighted the decline in his physical capacity. An attack of appendicitis in 1996 further accentuated his increasing vulnerability. In December 1995, a bout of motion sickness forced him to forego traditional Christmas celebrations. As the years passed, the Pope found it increasingly difficult to fulfill his obligations. His deteriorating condition became a profound impediment to his desires and responsibilities. Public appearances became poignant reflections of his struggle, with notable difficulties in moving about and conversing within Vatican City. In 2001, the revelation of one of his Vatican doctors diagnosed him with Parkinson's disease, characterized by debilitating symptoms of stiffness and tremors. Like the video? Show us your support by liking, subscribing, and considering using the Super Thank You feature to help us continue our work. Every bit of support makes a big difference, and we appreciate it from the bottom of our hearts. In early February 2005, what started as a benign flu turned into a serious health crisis. The illness caused severe spasms and inflammation of his larynx, making it very difficult for him to breathe. This emergency situation necessitated his transfer to Gemelli Hospital for immediate care. At first, treatment seemed promising, but his condition soon deteriorated. By the end of February, his respiratory problems had not only reappeared, but had intensified. Another urgent hospitalization followed, during which doctors recognized a serious deterioration in his health. As a result, he underwent a tracheotomy, a drastic measure consisting of an incision in the trachea to facilitate breathing. This operation, although it saved his life, prevented him from speaking, cutting off his vocal communication with the faithful and with God. A profound silence ensued, and prayers were replaced by somber reflections. Despite these difficulties, he continued to communicate through gestures. Especially memorable was his appearance from the hospital window, where he silently blessed the crowd with a gesture of his hands, a touching moment that moved many to tears. On March 20th, during Reims Sunday, he appeared again, frail but determined, waving an olive branch before the pilgrims in the Basilica of St. Mary Major. This gesture, in the midst of his evident fragility, aroused deep emotion among the spectators, amplifying the prevailing uncertainty about his future. 2 days later, it was learned that he was no longer responding to treatment. His condition was worsening, with little sign of recovery. At the end of March, the news of his serious condition went around the world and provoked various reactions. After continuous health problems and overwhelming fatigue, John Paul II's death seemed inevitable. The usually vibrant Vatican City had been transformed into a sanctuary of quiet introspection. Leading spiritual figures to ponder the future of the Church without its leader. On the morning of March 31st, at approximately 11 a.m., a critical incident occurred. Unbeknownst to him and his aides, the Pope's attendance at Mass in his private chapel would precipitate another serious medical episode. Attempting to fulfill his religious duties, he was suddenly struck with acute respiratory failure, exacerbated by fever. This episode was the culmination of a progressive urinary infection that had become dangerously aggravated. Faced with the rapid deterioration of his physical condition, Vatican doctors intervened with antibiotic treatments aimed at curbing the infection. However, the situation had progressed too far. The infection evolved into severe sepsis, overwhelming his immune response and causing systemic inflammation and multiple organ dysfunctions. Despite the dire circumstances, it was decided to suspend all medical interventions. However, a team of medical experts remained by his side, providing essential help to alleviate his breathing difficulties. In the midst of this situation, the papal apartment became not only a living space, but a place of eternal rest for Pope John Paul II, while the Vatican Hospital continued to care for others in need. The worldwide Catholic community, as well as observers from around the world, were moved by the events, and many gathered in Vatican City to pray for the revered leader's well-being. Then, on April 2, 2005, the inevitable happened. Pope John Paul II passed away peacefully in his Vatican apartment, just shy of his 85th birthday. He was 84 years and 317 days old. In his last moments, in front of his apartment window, he appeared to be praying, and his right hand moved as if blessing the faithful gathered in St. Peter's Square. According to witnesses, he breathed his last breath as he attempted to pronounce Amen, coinciding with the illumination of a third light in his apartment, a symbolic gesture marking his departure. His death was officially confirmed after a prolonged absence of heartbeat, indicated by an electrocardiogram that did not respond for more than 20 minutes. His last day was spent in contemplation, drafting letters to various churches, letters believed to contain unsolved mysteries known only to him. The Vatican has produced a meticulously detailed official study of John Paul II's final weeks. Prepared by the Vatican's medical team, this document aims to provide a comprehensive description of the Pope's fragile health during his final days. The publication of this study is seen by some as an effort to increase transparency and answer questions about the origin and evolution of the Pope's illness that led to his death on April 2nd. Historically, the deaths of popes have been shrouded in secrecy. Although there have been no official statements suggesting any wrongdoing in connection with the death of John Paul II, the Vatican's previous reluctance to acknowledge his Parkinson's disease has aroused curiosity and speculation among observers. This has called into question the credibility of the Vatican's internal operations. Despite the progressive worsening of symptoms over the years, the Holy See remained silent about the Pope's condition. This lack of openness fed speculators who spread false news about the Pope's death. A significant breakthrough came with the recent appearance of a 220-page report prepared by the Vatican's medical team. This report represents a significant move toward transparency. While many details about the Pope's death were gradually revealed, this comprehensive document provides a complete picture of his last days, detailing changes in his state of health, medical interventions, and daily routines. Available from Editrice Vaticana, the Holy See's publishing house, the report sheds light on the Vatican's commitment to ensuring a more transparent view of events within Vatican City. The newly published book is a companion to the official Vatican diary and functions as a logbook that meticulously records the events of John Paul II's final weeks. Each entry in the publication is precisely dated, beginning on January 31st, when the Vatican press office shocked the Catholic world by announcing the suspension of papal audiences due to the Pope's illness as of that significant day. The book provides a moving account of the Pope's health problems and details how he responded to the medical care provided to him in Vatican City. It also records the number of days the Pope spent in his Vatican City apartment, his progressively deteriorating health, and the 2 times he was hospitalized. As for his second hospitalization, the event of a throat operation is documented. Also noted are the details of how a breathing tube altered the normal breathing process. The chronology goes back to February 24th for ease of reading and research. The book also gives an account of the food diet followed by the Pope until his last moment. It seems that no singular detail has been overlooked. However, the veracity of what was written remains an unknown. Although the extensive chronicles of these events do not prevent the spread of false news, rumours and conspiracies, they help to restrict and filter the information disseminated among the world's population on matters related to the papal office. It is recognised as a step in the right direction in terms of controlling information emanating from the Vatican. The report puts on record something significant about the management of papal affairs. If you liked what you saw, please like, subscribe, and consider thanking us. Your engagement helps drive our content. Thank you for being such an important part of our community. So, in the hours before his departure, Pope John Paul II's attendees noticed a slight resurgence of vitality. Speaking softly in his native Polish, he pronounced, "Let me go home to the Father." This statement, though faint and barely audible, was interpreted by many as a profound affirmation of his faith and the anticipation of a life beyond earthly existence. It prompted reflection on the afterlife, reminding us that at some point we will all be reunited with our Creator. The official report gives a detailed account of his final hours, which coincides with that shared by Archbishop Stanislaw Dziwisz, the Pope's longtime confidant, in an appearance on Italian television. According to a nun who was by his side in his final moments, the Pope made a heartfelt plea in Polish, although his voice was weakened by illness. Although officially translated as, "Let me go to the house of the Father," the essence of his words remained constant, underscoring his desire for peace and divine will. Reading her speech written for Divine Mercy Sunday, the day of her passing, was serendipitous. It was a powerful testimony to the fundamental values he tirelessly defended: divine mercy as a source of hope and forgiveness. In this address, Pope John Paul II reflected on the risen Christ appearing to the apostles with his crucifixion wounds, interpreting them as symbols of God's eternal mercy, rather than as marks of suffering. This profound affirmation underscored his fundamental belief. God's love is boundless and manifests itself in acts of mercy and forgiveness. This belief also explains why he forgave the man who attempted to murder him. During one of his blessings, he prayed, "Lord, by your death and resurrection, you revealed the love of the Father. We believe in you, and we repeat it today with confidence. Jesus, I trust in you. Have mercy on us and on the whole world." He concluded by stressing that the upcoming liturgical solemnity world of the Annunciation should inspire us to contemplate the immense mystery of this merciful love through Mary's eyes. Pope John Paul II passionately ensured that his message of knowing God and his love was communicated to all. His leadership style has been described as autocratic and firm, but also obstinate. Regardless of perceptions, his leadership qualities were considered exemplary, a symbol of peace and unity, embodying Christ's goodness and compassion for all. Thank you very much.